Hello, Freelance Business Week. How's it going? My name is Livio Zanardo. I am one of the co-organizers for Freelance Business Week. Um, I am here with Junior O'Neill as well. Thank you for coming around.
Everyone.
So, Joe, how's it going today?
It's going great. I'm excited for this Wednesday. We're going to have a lot of great sessions. So I hope that you can join us for the full day. I don't know if you want to start with introductions or how do you want to do this, Livio?
Yeah, let's start with introductions. You'd want to introduce yourself first?
Sure. So my name is Juliet O'Neill. I am the co-organizer for Miami. This is my second year organizing Freelance Business Week Miami. I'm a designer working in the higher education and nonprofit space. I work with change makers and purpose-driven organizations, and I help them with their messages and solve the challenges through design. So yeah, that's what I do. What about you, Livio?
So my name is Livio. I am a freelance technologist. I help individuals, businesses, and organizations express themselves through technology. And I also run a nonprofit called Code for South Florida, which is for civic technology here in the region. And we're here to really talk about what's going on in Miami. We're also here to kind of showcase some of the sessions. And yeah, so Joe, where do you want to go from here?
Yes, so today we have, let me check here. Okay, so today we're going to have our two panel discussions. So we're going to be talking about the future of freelance and also about the product wheel and how this can affect the work for freelancers. And then we have a lot of great sessions. We have Madison Cleo from Denver. She's going to be sharing about social media, the keys to save time on social media. Then we're going to go on the sessions with Miami and talk about financial projections, design thinking, how to onboard clients, how to reclaim your bravery. And we are going to, let me see, did I miss anything here? No, business innovation, bravery, onboarding clients, and about the future of freelance. So if you don't have your full pass ticket yet, make sure to get it so you can get access to the replays and to all the sessions for today. So yes, I hand it over to you, Olivia.
Okay, so in the spirit of Freelance Business Week, something that each organizing team is doing is kind of showcasing their city, and something that I would love to, we have a small presentation. We're going to go over the history of Miami and what's going on in Miami right now. That is basically kind of a hot topic, especially for those in the tech sector. So, Joe, you want to help me? Yeah, thank you. What's going on in Miami? So, where do we start? As Miamians, everyone here of as Miamians, I think that recently we've gotten used to getting a lot of attention. We're getting a lot of attention as a city, right? And I think that it's very important to talk about what is Miami as a city and the way we've seen it for a very, very long time. It's an emerging coastal city, literally at the end of South Florida. It's a hub for tourism, commerce, culture, and hospitality. It's because of its location and its great access to commerce, it also works as a crossroads for the hemisphere where all of these regions kind of converge. And it's also the only city in the United States founded by a woman, which is why I like to say that Miami is one of the only female cities in the United States. And I think it's very special. And we're going to go into its history and talk a little bit more about why what that actually kind of stands out. So pre-1800s, right, the Tequesta tribe occupied the lands prior to European occupation. And in the late and throughout the years, between the 1600s and all the way up to the late 1800s, there was a mix between Spanish occupation and British occupation. And then Florida was just kind of switching hands left and right for some time until in the late 1800s, when you started having people actually settling in the area of Biscayne Bay. William Brickell established a Miami River trading post in the late 1800s. Julia Tuttle, who was probably Miami's first marketer-in-chief, she also bought some land in Miami. David Fairchild, who's a major botanical explorer who was very passionate about the biodiversity of Florida, he established a plant introduction garden, which is basically a federally funded, places of research for botanical subjects. The first public library was also established in the late 1800s. Dade County, which is basically the location of current Miami-Dade County, was chosen to be the actual was chosen to have the actual county seat instead of West Palm. We also elected the first mayor in the late 1800s. And it wasn't until maybe, closer to the 1900s that Miami had its very real estate boom. In December of 1894, there was a very great freeze that froze all of the citrus fruits in Florida, except for the ones in South Florida, which made Julia Tuttle very aware, and she reached out to Henry Flagler, who was a railroad tycoon, and she said, "Look, the whole citrus crop of Florida has, it has frozen, except for the one in South Florida. Come and see it for yourself." So this actually inspired was that Henry Flagler decided to then extend his railroad into Miami, and the news of new infrastructure and new trade infrastructure going into Miami basically started giving the region a lot more attention nationally. This was only in the early 1900s. And if you're aware of anything that's happening in Miami right now, this might sound really familiar, and I'll get back into that later. But then after that first major economic boom starts, you have the earliest cultural institutions kind of take place in Miami, right? I call them cultural institutions because they're institutions that fundamentally change and shape the culture of the region and still do to today. First, one of the first airports was established. Miami Beach, which is basically the most popular tourist destination here, was also incorporated into the greater city. The Miami Times and the Miami Herald, which are the two biggest newspapers and basically homegrown newspapers, they were established at this period as well. University of Miami also came to be, and Greater Miami started what used to be just kind of like the downtown and Coconut Grove area, which were a lot of the smaller central districts of Miami, were later expanded, incorporating other neighboring districts to basically make what is modern Greater Miami today. Also, a lot of civic engagement groups around racial labor issues were established because a lot of the labor that took place in early Miami was run by African Americans and Caribbean blacks. Then they started congregating around civic engagement, and their own civic engagements represent themselves in matters of public interest to them. So this is going to be very important later as we talk about community in Miami. But let's keep going down the timeline. So the 1950s and the 1970s in Miami brought the first real big wave of internationalization of Miami, right? So first, the first Spanish language newspaper, Diario de las Americas, it was founded in this period. The Cuban diaspora started to spread because of the political turmoil taking place. There was what it was called La Revolución, Fidel Castro's revolution, was basically driving out a lot of Cubans for their own personal and political safety. So they were taking what it was called freedom flights into Miami. And you can see in this image over in the bottom right, it says at the top, Cuban refugee airlift. And this was the periods when Cuban refugees were literally just coming to Miami, looking for a new life because their life in Cuba was starting to completely deteriorate due to the strong dictatorship of Fidel Castro at the time. So while all that is happening in Miami, we also have the establishment of my alma mater, the Florida International University, in the 1960s. Cassius Clay also defeats Sonny Liston for heavyweight champion of the world. And if you haven't seen One Night in Miami, this is one of the first major references to it. That's kind of giving Miami, kind of a cult following in terms of culture and history. The Miami Dolphins were also established in this period, and something that is especially important is that Miami, specifically the port of Miami, was declared a foreign trade zone. And what being a foreign trade zone means that it's kind of an international trade area that is not under the purview of the CBP, of the Customs and Border Patrol. So people who kind of come to this area to do commerce, they can do it freely without, with fewer regulations from the U.S. government. I'm not an expert in that, but it's definitely something worth looking into if you're interested in international commerce, because that means that you can do commerce in basically new terms at the Port of Miami. But let's keep moving, all right? The rise of the rest, which took place in the later part of the 20th century, is where we actually started seeing a lot of the I guess a lot of the smaller groups a lot of the newer groups coming into Miami that weren't original settlers, they start to come to rise through their own institutions and their own figureheads. So Overtown and Liberty City had some race riots in the 1980s, also as a result of the killings, the death of some people, and basically kind of some George Floyd, the same fashion as a George Floyd process took place. Overtown and Liberty City race riots took place because a lot of their members of their community were also basically falling to what a lot of people consider systemic racism, and it just created a giant civic engagement movement in the center of the city. The Knight International Center was also open during this period, which means that Miami was actually hosting international conferences. Scarface was filmed in Miami, which is something that a lot of people, that's very, very big in the world of media and culture. At the same time, you have the Maria boat lifts, which was basically a fleet of boats that were bringing Cubans into Miami, basically also escaping the regime in Cuba, increasing the share of Cubans in Miami. And Eliana Ross Lehtinen was the first Cuban American in federal Congress elected as a public servant, which was a very big deal because that meant that Cubans and Hispanics had representation in federal Congress, no less than some are from Miami. So we've reached the 21st century, which is kind of where modern Miami is taking place, and it's the Miami that we all know and love today. It's the Miami where Art Basel begins. Art Basel is one of the biggest art conferences on this side of the hemisphere. The international banking and financial industries start to establish themselves, alongside with a lot of distribution and major corporate players who contribute to Miami's Manhattanization. A lot of the buildings you see in this picture on the bottom left, though, a lot of those buildings weren't there before 10, 15 years ago. A lot of them are really, really recent developments that are happening because of the collection of economic activity in the area. And on the very right, we have something that happened very recently, a very last Art Basel that was hosted in person, is the famous Art Basel banana that was sold, that somebody, I don't remember who it was, but somebody just pasted a banana with duct tape to the wall, and it was later sold for $120,000 in the name of art. And you can interpret that as you may, but those are things that can only happen in Miami between the amount of capital, art, and culture that is really focused here. But I think the biggest cultural and economic shift that has happened, it literally just happened maybe for less than half a year ago, which is when Francis Suarez tweeted, "How can I help at Silicon Valley?" Let's get into that now. So before 2020 hit, Miami's technology sector had been growing. There was a dedicated community to building the local technology ecosystem when it comes to startups and startups, co-working spaces. A lot of arts and culture focused around the newer trends that were coming up in technology. A lot of these establishments were taking shape before 2020. But in this, as the COVID-19 pandemic was unfolding in 2020, a lot of people we all know what was happening across the country. A lot of people were kind of forced to move. A lot of people had to kind of change their jobs and change their living circumstances. And for many people, it was a time of change to figure out, where are we going to go next? And in those conversations, there was a major figure of Silicon Valley from something called the Founders Fund. He tweeted, "Okay, guys, hear me out. What if we moved to Silicon Valley to Miami?" This was in December of 2020. And the Mayor Suarez responded with, "How can I help?" And this started a gigantic tweet storm that basically took over Miami tech Twitter and Silicon Valley Twitter, and now you had so many founders and so many tech giants talking about the possibility of moving to Miami. So it's really because of this tweet, Miami's now undergoing its largest technology boom ever. Major Silicon Valley institutions are already here: the Founders Fund, Peter Thiel's fund, and many other big technology companies are being headquartered here. SoftBank, which is the largest venture capital bank of the world, they pledge $100 million to economic development of the tech sector, which in the greater scope of things is not a lot of money, but it is a very symbolic movement that is going to push these ecosystem forward. And Mayor Suarez is also exploring moving government services into the blockchain, even into letting citizens of Miami pay their taxes in Bitcoin, which I think is it's a completely new thing for the local government level and local government scope. As a result of this movement, Miami is being compared to not to its American counterparts. Now, it's not being compared to San Francisco. It's not being compared to New York. It's not being compared to Chicago or what have you, name it. It's also being compared to mega cities like Singapore or Dubai, because these cities they're also coastal cities that thrive on a gigantic, a super interconnected international commerce. And on top of that, Miami also has some of the lowest income taxes in the U.S. It actually doesn't have an income tax, if I'm correct. It has fantastic international culture and talent. And obviously the weather and the lifestyle here is something that's very attractive to many. So of course, you're going to have a lot of major institutional players of other industries move in here thanks to COVID, thanks to the COVID pandemic. Because now that people don't have to live where they work or live close to where they work, they can just work from anywhere, then a lot of people are starting to opt to just move over here and be based out of here, even though their jobs might be headquartered in New Jersey, their jobs might be headquartered in New York, San Francisco, or other major economic centers. It just makes life a lot easier for people who are looking to enjoy a high quality of living while still maintaining their costs a little bit lower in terms of their cost of living. Doesn't mean that living here is totally easy. Miami is a very, very interesting place with a lot to discover. But those who dare to discover it will find a lot of stuff here. One of the things that you're definitely going to find in Miami throughout all of this is you're going to find a community, right? And you're going to have communities of communities. The reason why I highlighted a lot of the social movements that took place in Miami in the timeline is because Miami has always been a place of civic engagement and social innovation. Before this major tech boom, Miami was a place that was highly concerned with social causes and social innovation in these causes. And in fact, it also has the highest donation per capita of any other American city in terms of philanthropic giving. So there's already a great culture of social change and social innovation within Miami. And I know that any freelancer who is remotely interested in any of these fields is likely to find a partner or find a community that can foster their specific interests or the specific areas of interest. But I think that the most important thing about becoming a part of this community is coming in with a spirit of contribution and giving, rather than a spirit of, I'm going to come here to take advantage of the situation, which you can, feel free and enjoy the city. But at the same time, there's so much community here that really, really cares about the city and really, really cares about advancing social justice and social causes, which is what I think makes Miami truly special in the greater context of things. More than just the technology, more than just the bustling commerce and the convenient location. Miami is a place of social innovation where new things can come about because it's in a constant state of flux. So yeah, if you want to know anything else about about Miami, feel free to ask us questions in the chat or send us an email through the to Freelance Business Week team, and we'll be happy to get you connected. But in the meantime, I think Joniette can come up to the stage and give you some areas where you can also get connected with community as well over here.
Sure. Thank you, Livia. That was great. If you can go to the next slide. Perfect. So now that you learned a little bit more about Miami, you're probably wondering, okay, so how can I help, right? And how do we get involved? And there are a lot of resources and great opportunities to impact our community. So I'm going to share 3 of this. So we're going to get started with the Ready Challenge. So you're probably wondering what is READY. So this means racially equitable, diverse, and inclusive ecosystem. This is a challenge by our friends from Air Ventures. They were formerly Venture Cafe in Miami, and now they're creating this challenge to help us to help better understand the experiences and the needs of the community in order to create better opportunities for everyone. So you can take the survey. You can visit their website, readychallenge.org, to get involved and support the innovation entrepreneurship ecosystem in Miami, in South Florida. Next one. And we're talking about all these things, right? And as Livio said, we are a community. And we have always been looking for ways to create greater impact for everyone. So we are Miami Tech, and we want you to motivate you to take the pledge and be part of this and learn more about the values behind the principles behind this movement, so we can create an equitable um, and collaborative community. So you can visit wearemiamitech.com to learn about this and all the people behind this initiative, and how we are building a better Miami for everyone. And the last one, 10 Days App Connection by Radical Partners. So this is an annual event. So for 10 days every year, Radical Partners invites everyone in the community to connect and share experiences, just to learn more about our human experience, right? And how we can get rid of those differences and build better opportunities. So we're going to start with this event on May 1st. So if you want to be part of any of these events, you can go and check their calendar. You can go to the 10daysofconnection.org to check all the things that they have there. If you also want to host a session, you can do it as well. They have a lot of great resources for you to get involved. So that's all I have. Great opportunities to connect and learn more about the community and learn about the values that we want to embrace in this new moment for Miami, and that we don't forget that Miami is for everyone, and that we need to build a city with all these principles and great stuff to create better impact. So that's all I have for you. We're going to check if you have any questions on the chat and give a few minutes for that. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I don't see any, but yes, as of yet. But feel free to put them as you're uh, as we go through it. But yeah, I think that it's as you can see, Miami has always been a place where people come to kind of build their lives, not because that's just how, not because it's been promoted that way, but rather because it has, rather because it has evolved to be that way because of its close relationship to international markets and things happening overseas. So it's always been a place that is in a constant state of change, a constant state of evolution. And as it's growing right now, then there's an even more interest in keeping Miami an open and equitable space for people who want to make something of themselves, no matter where you are. And even if you're a freelancer who's not particularly concerned with social impact, these opportunities are also great chances to get connected to Miami and knowing what's up and what's happening in the community. And that way you can get plugged in and figure out where you stand in the greater context. So come on. So
Okay, so we're gonna give it a few minutes. I know that the comments take a bit to show up on the page.
So
we'll wait for that.
Yeah, in the meantime, of course, we're very excited about our sessions today. We have Madison Cleo to help you save time on social media. As we said, we have building financial. We're going to have the future freelance panel discussion with the organizing teams. It's going to be very, very exciting. Building financial projections. I think that's going to be a fantastic talk because I'm not really good at that either. So I recommend if you're looking for growth, that's someone you want to talk to, Aaron Chavez. Cynthia Sandoval from freelancer to business owner and scaling your business as well. We're going to have also the much anticipated discussion on the PRO Act and Reclaiming Your Bravery by Marte Sabenhar. She's fantastic and a great cultural innovator here in Miami. We have Design Thinking with Better Navarro for business innovation, and last but not least, Streamline Your Client Onboarding with Whitney Lubin. So don't forget to attend the sessions, get your extra ticket if you haven't, and enjoy the rest of Freelance Business Week, yo.
We have a question here, Livio.
Do we?
So it says, how is downtown Miami doing with affordable housing?
As far as affordable housing, right? Housing in Miami is not totally affordable, but it is a problem that the mayor has pledged to tackle. There are several affordable housing resources around. I don't have them on hand right now, but But in terms of finding a place in Miami, if you want to find an affordable place in Miami, you want to look for things slightly outside of the area, but not necessarily in the greater Miami area, as in like downtown Brickell, Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, because they're the most expensive areas. But you can also get lucky with some steals here at Miami Beach or in the Edgewater area, or a little bit further north. So yeah, thank you for liking the history.
Okay, we don't have any other questions. So thank you for your time. We hope you enjoyed the rest of the day. And yeah, anything else you want to add?
No. I just look forward to seeing everyone, to seeing the new workshops today, and hopefully, I hope that people can get as much as they can out of it. So
Perfect. Okay, bye-bye.
thank you.